Hi, everybody. I am Pat Simmons, and I am the author of over now 50 titles. But I want to tell you the story of how I got here. This is my newest release, and it is Accomplices in Love that was released in September of this year, and I have it beside me. So, how did I start from here and get to here? Give me a few minutes. I'm going to break it down for you. First of all, this was my first book ever published, Guilty of Love, in 2007. And it's a play on titles because guilty of love means that when we love our children, our spouse, our siblings, we will be guilty of doing things because we love them. But Jesus died on the cross for our guilt because he loved us. So that's two-sided. This book came out in 2007. And how did I know that 17 years later, I would go from here to here? Well, let me just say all the cast of characters have carried the story. Park Jamieson the sixth is a 10th generation descendant of a royal African tribe. He is introduced to neighbor Cheney, and Cheney's next door neighbor is the one and the only Grandma Beebe, the gun-toting Stacey Adams shoes wearing neighbor that was really supposed to be comedy relief. In all my stories, I deal with heavy duty issues. And with my background as a news writer, I wanted to talk about women's choices and the effect that they have long term on us. So I introduce, because Park can just talk to himself, his two brothers, Malcolm and Cameron. And I introduce his mom. I gave her the namesake Charlotte Jamieson, named after the four generations or three generations of Charlotte in my family. And how did I get the name Jamieson? Just random, just random. But what I found out through my genealogy research is there was a Robert Jamieson who actually enslaved my third great grandmother, Charlotte Jamieson. So when I got that revelation, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. So this is Guilty of Love. This started it all. I'm going to put that there. Because Guilty of Love had so much success, I came up with the second book, Not Guilty of Love. I know it's not a unique title, but when you're a first-time author and people want another book, you have to think fast, and well, this is what we came up with. And then this story is his brother Malcolm, who is as carnal-minded as the man can be, but he is in love. He is in love with Allison Dinkins, and she wants to walk away from the Lord, but God keeps pulling her back. So she makes a decision. And one thing I do like about this one is, let me see. Oh, this is the wrong blurb for this. I don't know how it got like that, but one woman, one man, one God, and one big problem, because God was a problem in the relationship she wanted with Malcolm. And then, of course, I couldn't tell Park's story in one or two books, so I had to finish his story. So this is Park and Cammy and his firstborn son, Park Jamieson the eighth. I know how to count. You have to read the book to figure out why he's the eighth and not the seventh. And this is him when he finds him in adoption. So the story continues. So by this time, I've become very creative with the series that started off to be the Guilty series. So what about the acquittal? I like that. I take my readers to Africa. And I wanted the readers to show the stereotypes that Africans have about African Americans, and we as African Americans have, because of what we see on social media and things like that, against Africans. So this is a real good story. I take you to Ghana. By the time I finished my research, I was ready to come home because I was just entrenched in the story. And so Josephine is a friend of Cheney. So it is Cheney's twin brother, Rainey, and Josephine. The next book that Moody Publishers picked up was Guilty by Association. And this book has been a blessing to so many young people and church ministries. Guilty by Association is not so much, and I guess I do this side, the sun isn't so much on here, but it's not so much of who you hang with. This young man, Kid, and I love Kid. He's rough, he's raw, and I love him. God loves to save those type of people. But in Kid's situation, he's a Jamieson. He's guilty of being a Jamieson because of his deadbeat father who wasn't in the home. Why do I have to carry the name Jamieson? He wasn't around to raise us. So this is dealing with that anger that we're trying to figure out why. Why is someone angry? And there's always a seed, a root to why someone's angry. And then this is, who is this? What's her name? What's her name? What's her name? I can't always think of her name. I can't remember all these characters' name. But anyhow, oh, no. Anyhow, I can't remember her name. Okay. The guilt trip is Kid's brother. And the guilt trip means that he's just like his father. Responsibility is optional, which that ain't right. So one thing about the Jamiesons, they are a strong knit family. And so when he doesn't step up, when his woman gets pregnant and he deserts her, the Jamiesons step up. The guilt trip is not what they put on him, but the guilt trip that he develops himself. This is really funny. From there, we had to do the last brother. Park and Malcolm's last brother was Cameron. Cameron is a PhD. He has all these degrees. He's good looking. He's fine. And he thinks he's all that. Well, no, baby, you're not all that. So with this particular book, her name is Gabrielle. So this is Gabrielle and Cameron's story. So basically the gist of this is God's wisdom versus man's wisdom. Sisters, if you hold true to your faith, you can draw any man to Christ. And if he doesn't submit to Christ, ask God to give you strength to walk away. So after that, I decided that their mother, remember, Kid, no, that's not Kid. Kid and Ace had an affair with Samuel Jamieson. So I felt that you needed to hear her side of the story. This is them as kids. I like this. And then this is Sandra Nicholson. So she's not a Jamieson, but this is a short story that basically tells you how she got hooked up, which I don't know if that's the terminology I should use, but at any rate, how she met and fell for Samuel Jamieson, their father. The confession was named appropriately because she has to make a confession. And this is my first book where my characters were over the age of 50 and it won an award. And I was really glad because they both had a past and they both had to make a confession to the Lord to move on. And so you have some reconciliations in here and you do have a happy ending because I'm a romance writer. So that's how we got to the confession. Next is the guilty generation. And so the saga continues. Here is Cammie. Remember, she was in Still Guilty. Cammie is growing up. And when our teenagers grow up, they think they're grown. She thinks she's grown. Oh, baby. Park puts her in her place, especially when she says, "You ain't my daddy." Silence, the pen dropped. Oh, yes, honey. She's going to find out how much this man is her daddy, especially when she gets hooked up with Tango. And I keep saying hooked up, so I hope that's not a bad term. But anyhow, when she meets Tango and he wants to influence her. And also, this is Cammie and Victoria. You got to find out what happened with them. I don't want to give that away. But because of that, because of her attitude, They send her away for the summer to live with her aunt, Queen Jamieson. She's the only female Jamieson from Samuel Jamieson. And he had 3 sets of kids. Anyhow, he was a bad mama jamma. So here you have her who is diva, sassy, sophisticated, polished. She is the one. Chocolate, skin, just, oh, I love her. She would be my best friend. But she meets the evangelist, Philip Dupree, who happens to be the brother of Gabrielle. Okay. And so she is a fierce supporter. Even though she doesn't go to church, she don't want nobody messing with Philip. So you know how that ends. Okay. And then, no, before Grandma Baby, sorry. No, Grandma Baby came first. Everybody wanted to know how this Stacey Adam gun-toting childless widow became Grandma BB. So this is contempt, Grandma BB shenanigan. You know what? I didn't really want to write her story because no one knew how old she was, including me. But I learned so much about Missouri history, um, the civil rights, or just so much by writing her story. So I'm glad I did. So contempt is her contempt for God, but you know, God don't play. This one is she decides to have a dress rehearsal for her funeral. Need I say more? A month after that, Christmas takeover. And this is where Pace meets Victoria and Victoria and Cammie's best friend, Harmony Reed. This is how we got to this, Accomplices in Love. So you can read them in order. You don't have to read them, but with Accomplices in Love, I would highly recommend because I do reference the Christmas dinner. As you can see, it's a short story. And so this is how we got to that. You can also go to my website, www.patsimmons.net, and it will give you a snippet of their stories and summary. But I hope you like the next generation of Jamiesons. Okay, I need a break. I need a snack. I am out. Thank you for joining me. Bye.